What's going on, y'all? It is Brian and Fearless back with the
Yeah.
live stream. I started it just as Fearless was getting on. Um, Last week we talked about the mythology around the 48 laws of power, and so
Mhm.
we're going to still continue on that thread. Um, we're not talking about we're not trying to completely debunk the entire 48 laws of power. What we're saying is a lot of times the way people apply it in their lives and the way it's sold to people. Um, and let's be honest, by influencers out there in the spaces and stuff like that, they sell it as a handbook to live your life. And unless you are in proximity of real power or real control and everything, um, a lot of these 48 laws of power will do nothing but alienate you and actually limit your opportunities because you're not in the prime position to maximize the use of these. And so that's why we wanted to have this conversation.
Right. Yeah. You're not in the proximity of power.
Because right now
To be powerful.
the worst person you know is quoting the 48 laws of power to justify doing something horrible. And
Right.
and they're also quoting Rich Dad Poor Dad or whatever. Um and so
Which again we could touch on that next week for sure.
yeah,
The 4-part quadrant and all that or whatever like that. I don't think again you're talking to somebody who loves to read. Um, and has read so many of that Robert Kiyosaki books. It's crazy or whatever.
a lot of it is there's a mythology around it because one of the brilliant things about what he did was he simplified things for people to understand. But the problem is you stuck with the simple framework and treated this stuff like it's like you could treat everything like it's a simple framework, and sometimes things are a lot more complex and nuanced.
Right.
And so, but that goes back to the 48 laws of power, right? This is supposed to be, and it goes to a larger argument, Fearless, to be honest with you. um I think what happens is people who aren't necessarily inclined to read, or they're just starting their reading and self-education journey, they read one book, and that book becomes their entire worldview, and they never follow it up with any other books. They never follow up any other books that counter what's being said in there. And so they operate with this one singular worldview, and it can end up leading you to being in a bad position. And so that's what I'm talking about, bro. I think
Right.
um, a lot of times when we have these conversations, and it goes back to this, we're not saying 48 laws of power are bad. We never said that. But there's specific, we're trying to give you a right context to apply some of this stuff. And so that's what the purpose of the podcast is. That's what we're here for.
Right. Just to offer a different type of context, or it's the nuances that we're kind of adding to a lot of this because I think that without context, I think there's going to be a whole problem with people taking this these tools, these strategies, and applying it to everything, and you don't want to apply it to everything. I mean, that's almost like a drill sergeant
Right.
talking to a 3-year-old. You can't treat a 3-year-old the same way you treat a 21-year-old, and vice versa. It's
Right.
not gonna. I mean, you can yell at a kid all you want to, or whatever, but all you're gonna do is scare it into submission.
Right.
And walking around telling people to outshine the master or never outshine the master. With certain things, I would understand that because you got to fall in line where you need to fall in line. But the problem is when you apply that to other things, at that point, it's just manipulation.
Right. The conceal your attentions and things along those lines. When you're doing interpersonal, like actual interpersonal relationships with people you actually care about and not people you're competing with, um, this stuff can be very damaging. I mean, and it also goes to Robert Greene wrote other books to talk about other aspects of it. So yeah, it was the laws of seduction. He wrote mastery and stuff because I think even then he realized that as a text, 48 Laws of Power wasn't this absolute way to um, completely command every aspect of your life. And so he even added some frame of context. So if this man has written other books that kind of expand on some of the topics, why do you think like this? Why would you be comfortable with this just being your only handbook to navigate life with? It's like
Right, there it is.
perspective and never challenging your own assumptions.
Hmm. So it's kind of funny, man. I'm taking this class. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah. So I'm taking this class on anthropology or whatever, and it's pretty tight, man. Some of the stuff that you learn in that, and I'm only just finished chapter one, and so they're talking about like the key scientific concepts of of figuring out what like fact versus fiction
Hmm.
or whatever, and it kind of got me into thinking about a lot of this stuff that we're talking about now, based on the 48 laws and trial and error in general. But so there's one, two, three, four, five, six. So there's six scientific concepts. So the first one is assumption. The second one is evidence and material or inferred
Hmm.
or whatever. You have hypothesis, which most of us know, testability, theory, and objectivity. Objectivity.
Hmm.
And objectivity is looking at things from an objective standpoint. And that's one of the things that I love about um, reading in general is that it's kind of like a tool that you put in your tool shed or your toolbox, whatever. You don't need to keep it out all the time. You don't need to walk around with a hammer, but a hammer is very useful when it's time to use it
Right.
or whatever. So learning, I wouldn't tell you not to learn the 48 laws. I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you to use it when you need to or whatever. And that's all it is.
Well, and I'll throw this in here. You can build a house with just a hammer if you wanted to,
Yeah.
utilizing that as your only tool. It's not going to be a very good house.
Right.
Um, and so sometimes you need to get other elements in your toolbox that the tools are for different contexts and different situations you encounter. If you're trying to if you're trying to use everything as a hammer, um, you're going to get results, but they're not always going to be the results you want. And
Mm,
that's what we're saying is put some other stuff in your toolkit.
yeah.
Um, and so let's where we left off, because I'm kind of going through our notes here.
Okay.
Where we left off, we were at we did the avoid the unhappy and unlucky. I think we were sitting at selective on no, actually, um, we had make others come to you. We were actually at win through actions, not through argument. Um, I don't have a huge disagreement with this one. Um,
Okay. 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 Hold on one second. Let me go to it.
wait a minute.
Okay.
We
Okay.
talked
Which
about this
one?
one. We did talk about that one. I was talking about number 9, but I think I remember us having a conversation because we went to unhappy and unlucky, make people dependent on you. We talked about that one.
No, we're
I think we were at selective honesty,
okay.
and so the next one would have been appeal to self interest.
Right.
So 12 was use of selective honesty. That's law number 12. Um, the pro of that is it disarms suspicion. The con is it's manipulation. I mean, I told my kids all the time, omission of a truth is a lie.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, you can call it whatever you want.
right, if you're omitting a truth, you're giving something that's factually inaccurate because you're not equipping somebody with the full true statement. And so
Right.
selective honesty, if you're in a working environment, that might work if you're in close proximity to power. But if you're working collaboratively with people, um, and you're withholding vital facts from them about the thing that you're working on, because you're being selectively honest, you're setting yourself up to be marked out as a person that is untrustworthy.
Okay.
That's that's how I view things. Like there are levels to this kind of thing. From a context standpoint, yes, be selectively honest if you're talking about if you have embarrassing details about your Saturday night out, right? Or things that you don't necessarily need to disclose to your employee, your fellow coworkers or your boss. But if you're working collaboratively with somebody, being transparent with them about aspects that are vital to the success of this project is important. And I've experienced people withhold vital information just because they want to be the hero.
Correct.
And so that's dangerous. And even in a supervisor spot, bro,
Mhm.
selective honesty, if your employees get a sense that you are halfway lying to them, they're not going to believe you when you're telling them the truth.
Not at all.
So that's
Now,
just my take.
it's,
What do
it's
you
kind of
think?
like the no, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same concept or whatever. I mean, and you know, that's one of the things that I talk to my son about constantly. I'm like, buddy, like, you know, I need to believe any and everything that comes out of your mouth.
Hmm.
And I said the reason why is because where we are in society today, son, I cannot doubt you.
Hmm.
Like the stakes are too high for me to be doubting you. You know, there's too much at stake for me to be doubting you.
Right.
So when we discuss things, when we talk about things, son, we got you. We have to be honest with each other. Period. Regardless of what happens when we get out there in our house, we gotta be real with each other.
Right.
We have to be. Because when we're out there and somebody says, well, yeah, your kid did X, Y, Z, I need to be able to look you in your face. As a matter of fact, I don't even need to look you in the face. You should be able to say something to me, and I'd be like, "No, my kid said that didn't happen." You could be like, "Well, I got him on tape." No, my kid said it didn't happen. I don't know who you got on tape, but it ain't my kid.
Right.
Like that's how much your word needs to fucking mean when you and I discuss and when we're talking about stuff, right? And that and integrity and character, especially with father and son. Your word, son, gotta mean something, and that's one of the things that we talk a lot about when it comes to honesty,
Hmm.
integrity, and character. That those things they gotta mean something, especially in today's time.
Right.
We don't have time. We ain't got the luxury to sit around thinking and hoping that things will work itself out. We live in America. You know what I'm saying? I got a whole library back there of just of injustices, not just the people in general, but especially black people.
Hmm.
Especially, I got a one of my favorite authors, John Grisham, wrote a book called Framed, and people have been asking him for 20, 30 some years. Why don't you ever write any books based on actual real events?
Hmm.
Well, he finally did, and he walked away just rocked because of the injustices that he writes about all the time. It's something totally different when you go through the case by case and you see what our country will do to you in general, even knowing that you had nothing to do with this, just to throw you in prison. Like, nah, buddy. No. When we talk to each other, we got to be for real no matter what. I might get pissed at you, son, but bro, I got to know that if you say anything to me, anything, that's the law. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. and half truths, because we live in this world where half truths are kind of baked into the way that we communicate.
That part.
And when somebody presents the full context of this specific situation, especially if the full context of the situation doesn't align with what the half truth they're operating off of, they will fight you to the ground to hold on to that half truth and toss out the other side of it. We're seeing it play out on the news in press conferences every single day,
Right.
where they'll get up there and say something that is partially true, and then when the reporter provides the rest of the context, they get shouted down or ignored, and that's the law of the land. And so, at some point, this half truth thing ends up becoming a power game, because if I'm only tell you half the truth, I'm actually controlling the narrative that I'm rolling with.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you don't have the full because you don't have the full field.
right.
You don't have the full. You don't have all the cards in the deck. Right.
And and that's what's happening is we get these half truths out here, and that ends up becoming that's just a way to control a narrative. When you're dealing with somebody who only speaks in half truths and partial things, kind of like when we always have the conversations about, you know, the was it the 1350 percentage thing that they use to denigrate black folks, um, without adding the rest of the context in. When you add the rest of the context in, people get upset because the context makes it not as simple as it's presented, and that upsets people. And to be honest with you, that's how I kind of evaluate um, the thinking acumen of the person I'm talking to. If I can add true context to your statement and disprove it, and you get upset, that means that you operate on a different level, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. And so, getting to, when you're only speaking half truths, you only speaking half truths makes you a total liar. That's just how I feel it. You know. Um, let's move on to 13, because I actually kind of agree with this one, and that it just becomes, because this is from my marketing background, and so I may have a strong bias towards this one.
Okay. Appeal to self interest. The
Yep.
pro is align incentives realistically, and the cons is that ignores virtue. Excuse me. Yeah, virtue and shared values. Go ahead. What do you
So
want? So you
the
agree? So you agree or disagree with this?
I actually agree to only to appeal to people's self interest. Um, I learned this, even before I started doing marketing, when I was working with kids and families and stuff. More times than not, um, my immediate concerns are not as important as this family's immediate concerns. And so, if I want to communicate to them and express what I think needs to be done, I need to communicate it in a way that completely embraces what their personal interests are in the conversation and what their personal stakes are in the conversation. And so, I don't see a negative in appealing to people's self-interest as much, but there's also, if their self-interest also mirrors their worst impulses, that's when I have a problem.
Hmm.
But if if in order to convey the message and be more communicative, I need to speak to something that benefits directly you, then I don't necessarily see a problem with it, because that's how we all operate, more or
Gotcha.
less. What do I have it? What does this mean for me? You know, even people that are that volunteer for everything, that are activists, that are out there community organizing and things along those lines, their self-interest aligns with making sure that the community they're working with is in a better position. And so their self-interest can be generalized to a group of people, but at the same time, it's still narrowly their self-interest if you're talking about the betterment of that group of people that they're working with.
Gotcha.
So I don't necessarily see a negative to that. I think the way you apply the way you apply it means everything. But I never see any, like, speaking to your own personal interest and making you care about what I care about, without having some kind of tie to you. I don't necessarily see that as a way to engage people.
Gotcha.
So that's what my take is.
No, I honestly, bro, I agree with you on that.
Uh,
Like 100%.
let's see.
Let's move to that next one though, man.
Pose as a friend, work as a spy.
That part.
Ew. This is to
That
me.
part.
This is okay. So the pro is awareness is power. The con is it violates trust. Here's the thing. So this is one of those workplace ones. Um, I'm of two minds of workplace friendships. If you had a friendship before the workplace, and your friendship exists outside the workplace, and it existed independently of the workplace, this is a problematic way to view relationships and friendships with people. But if you're one of those people that calls all your friends associates, or well, no, let me flip that around. You're one of those people that calls all your associates friends,
Hmm.
and you have people in your circle that they haven't really passed the friend element of it. I can see the benefit of this, but you have to be in proximity to power for this to work. You can't
That
you,
part.
you can't sit there and spy and look for an event, try to game your friends for an advantage, man. That sucks.
Right, but I mean, at the same time, though, you see a lot of this here with 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 celebrities,
Hmm.
for instance. So you'll see a lot of that where it's like, oh no, we're friends. Or matter of fact, not even celeb. Yeah, you'll see that with them, with their managers, with their the people that they keep around them, their publicists and all that, their assistants and stuff like that or whatever. You'll see a lot of that with them.
So,
And then,
when they're in a competitive industry, there are actors that are actually friends, and others that are just associates just because of way that they interact. Like, okay, so me and my wife were sitting there watching this TikTok of this young lady. Um, Her and her friends for New Year's they went down to Florida, right? I think they were down in Miami to ring in the new year. And you know how Miami is, right? Like
no, I don't.
where it's really super, like there's a lot of colorism in Miami. Black folks would mention like if you're dark skinned in Miami, you're not gonna have a great time. But there's also a very look element to it. So um the girl they went out with was considered plus size, but now plus size is just you're just a regular size
You
person.
think that's what's up?
Yeah. And so they went out to a club and there's a group of friends. And two friends got in. They were going to let them in for free, but then they wanted to charge a $300 cover to the girl that was normal sized.
Okay.
And they sat out there and they deliberated this thing. They said they sat out there and deliberated it for hours. You know, they're going to figure out how they're going to put their money together to get her in the club so they can ring in New Year's together, right? Eventually, it turned into, well, we'll just pay for you to, we'll pay for the normal size friend to have a Uber back to the hotel. We'll collaborate on that, and we'll go in and ring in New Year's in this club.
Gotcha.
And the normal size friend said, if you put me in that Uber, I'll take it. I will go back to the hotel 100%, but the friendship is over at that point. And the girl was like, basically shocked that her friend would say that to her. And my take on it is she wasn't really your friend in the first place. Like, if we're going out to a spot, the crew's going out, if one of us can't get in, we ain't going in.
Yeah.
And my wife kind of said, and I mentioned that to my wife, and she's like, Brian, you need to understand that some of these kids don't know how friendships work like that.
Yeah, no.
They don't, they haven't learned that friendships are that. It's super transactional. In their mind, she's preventing them from doing the fun thing that they want to do. And so she should be able to just take the L and be fine with going back to the hotel. And then that's it. And I never thought about it like that. But that goes back to understand the difference between friends and associates.
Hmm.
These are people that she associates with. I don't think that they were actually her friends. And to hear
okay, so how did that go again?
So basically they go out to a club in Miami to ring in New Year's.
Gotcha.
They get to the club, the bouncer says, the promoter and bouncer say, you guys can come in for free, but she needs to pay $300 because she's bigger.
Jesus.
Because we're trying to maintain a certain look and aesthetic in the club.
$300
for the cover. Yeah.
Okay, continue.
And her friend sat there and deliberated this whole thing. And first they're going to split the cost. between them so that she can get in and did all this other stuff. And it ended up being, well, we're not going to split the cost. We'll split the cost of Uber to send her back to the hotel so we can go in. And the girl basically said, if you put me in that Uber, I'll take the, I'll take the Uber ride back to the hotel, but the friendship is over. We ain't cool after this. If that's the decision you make. And the girl making the video, she just couldn't understand how could she say that to us? I mean, yeah, it sucks that she couldn't get in, but she should be about us. Like, you're not a friend. That's not what a friend does. If we're going out somewhere and they say, hey, that's cool, he can't get in. If you say, okay, man, then you go sit in the car while we go in and have fun, we ain't cool.
Right.
You say, hey, either we all get in or none of us get in, bro. That's the arrangement. So if we got to pay for it, we'll figure out a way, or we'll just go somewhere else. Yeah.
Why didn't they just go somewhere else?
They had to be in their mind, they had to be in that club. And that being in that club was more important than anything else. And for me, I'm old enough where I'm like, that sounds like an absolute nightmare. Being in I used to do the ringing New Year's into the club.
And you're just going to stand there.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it'd be different if you knew everybody there. They were all there for you. Like, they don't know you.
Right.
That's crazy.
It sucks. Why would I do that? Like, in my mind, I'm like, why would I even, like, why would you even entertain?
You really can't go anywhere else.
And that's what I'm saying. There's other clubs they could have gone to where they didn't have to do this, but they had to be in this club because this is where the important or famous or glamorous people, I don't know, but they had to be in association with all these other vapid people in this club so they could see and be seen. And they don't even really I know for they go out, kids, they don't even dance. They just all sit around on their phones and take pictures of themselves. And so it's like, so you're excluding your friend from that over this $300 cover charge. We would have bounced. Hey, she can't get in. All right, cool. Let's go down the street.
All right, yeah, no problem.
This club ain't that important.
And 300. I mean, excuse me. I mean, dude, we'd have dipped at the $300.
Yeah, ain't nothing important enough for me to
spend $300. $300 to come in here for what?
Yeah.
And then I still got to pay for drinks.
Right.
You still got to pay for everything else that while you're in there. So I'm like, no, that's crazy.
I'm a huge football fan. I haven't spent $300 on a ticket, and I had tickets where we could go and go back and see people and talk to the pros and be in the locker room and stuff like that. I ain't paying no $300 for that. I was paying $300 for that.
Yeah.
And so I guess for me, it boils down to what back to the law. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. You have to clearly define what friends are, bro. Because if I'm working as a spy on you, that means you're not a friend. It means you're an associate. And if I'm posing as a friend, that just makes me as full of shit as you are.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I don't have, in my life, I guess, and you're kind of in the same boat. I don't have to associate with a motherfucker I don't like. Like, if I don't trust you and move like that, if I don't have to really build with you like that,
right?
Where I can't trust you or I have to feel like I'm obligated to spy on you, that's not necessarily a friend either. And so for me, the 14th law, when you say pose as a friend, work as a spy, that is very highly contextualized to you are competing for a job in a very intensive competition work environment.
Mm-hmm.
Not applied to your day-to-day life.
No.
So,
no, but again, though, I like the second one that it says that it violates trust. It violates it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not here because we're friends. I'm not here because I want to build something with you. I'm here because I need something from you.
Right.
So again, going back to concealing or hiding your intentions.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and again, the biggest problem that we have in our culture, and I'll say our culture of America, is that we have a very individualistic mindset when it comes to community and when it comes to culture.
Yeah.
It is very independent. very individualistic, which means we do not look out for each other. The only thing that we are united in is that I hate this person because they hate me. I hate this person because they have more than me,
Mhm.
and and our states are connected to each other.
Yep.
That is the only thing that we are united in the United States. Other people, and I'm not saying that you're not going to find corruption. I'm not going to say that you're not going to find bullshit. I'm not going to say that you're not going to find violence, crime, education, all that stuff, whatever, the same as you would here. Um, but I do see, and I do think that if you look around, you'll start seeing a lot of people. I'm not saying have like a kumbaya type
Mhm.
of Hakuna Matata type of mentality towards each other, but they do have a live and let live reality, reality with each other.
And I think, to be honest with you, Fearless, this does break down on a cultural level or
Mm-hmm.
ethnic background level because um, I've seen it where you have communities that are formed around this communal kind of living, extended family kind of living, and then you juxtapose that against what's happening, how America views individualism, and that's why some groups don't necessarily. That's why there's always a little bit of a disconnect. We can get into it. We can talk about the extended family within the context of enslaved people from Africa, where the tribal kind of group living dynamic, right? And trying to figure out how that translates to an American culture or even indigenous, because they had a similar kind of structure with extended family and things along those lines.
Right.
And so I do think that that plays a little bit into the differences within communities. It's not a bad thing, but some people are totally unaware that, yeah, when some people, for some people, it's odd that I grew up with my cousins like we're siblings,
Yeah, I mean,
and
but a lot of us did back in those days.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
and it was odd, for but then it was odd that my cousin, my mom and her cousins grew up in the same household like siblings, and for us, extended family is important, and so, and I got cousins that I'm not related to, if
right.
that makes sense. And
Yeah.
so, but you find that, and then there are other communities where that's just totally strange, and they don't even really they don't even hang out with their cousins like that. They don't really care. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's layers to this, and so that comes into the kind of the melting pot where you have multiple groups of people from multiple ancestries living in the same country, and so that does provide a little bit of friction. But the individualistic American kind of thing, the ideology, I think is problematic where we make that the default way that everybody is supposed to live.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing I like about this class that I'm taking, the anthropology, is that you have to look at other cultures. You have to look at everybody else's. It forces you to look at everybody else's stuff, and this is just the way that they do things. Just
Mhm.
like what we talk a lot about, the hunger problem, the starvation, and this that, and the other, right? But in other cultures, I mean, the reason why they don't starve, the reason why they're not waiting for the government to send them anything is because they eat grub,
Mhm.
and grub are insects. Grub, or they'll lift over some rocks and get to eating.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and for us, like I was watching one of my books. She had these, I don't know what the hell they were called. I think slugs
Mhm.
or something. They were eating something, and I guess they were like real thick. And when you hit them, I guess when you pop them open, it's like a paste
Mhm.
type of thing. And but apparently it tastes like chicken.
I'm cool.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Right. But see, that's just it
Yeah.
though. Because of our Western thinking, we don't, you know what I'm saying? We don't live like that. So you're not gonna do anything like that, right? So
Mhm.
that would be like the equivalent for us of drinking out of the toilet. Like
Well,
we're like we're not doing that. But to somebody else, they are like, oh no, that's better than what we've already been drinking.
Well, let me give this example because we talked about it on previous episodes. We have groups of immigrants coming over to this country, and then people sit there and say, "How did they get all this money for this, restaurant or barbershop or
Ah,
whatever?"
yeah, yeah.
And we talk about a lot of groups internally. You only know this a lot of times. You only realize this once you start working with immigrant groups and stuff like that, or you're just familiar with it through proximity. Um, a lot of immigrant groups, when they come over here, they have internalized lending systems that's
Mhm.
worked out within that subsect of community. And so when you come over, you get loaned the money to establish whatever you need to establish, whether it's to go to school, because some people use it to go to school, some, to send their kids to school, some people use it to build a business, whatever. They loan each other money, and with the expectation that that money gets paid back to the pot, so that when the next group comes in or the next person comes in, you can loan them the money, and the money keeps circulating internally in the community, and they never really have to go outside, or by the time they're ready to step outside for outside capital, they've already built up enough of a war chest that commercial lending is not a big deal. But since a lot of Americans don't know that, since we're so individualized, since we don't necessarily know how these immigrant groups are doing it, we don't have the insider knowledge. We assume the worst about it. Well, they're just getting free stuff because that's who they are, as opposed to they have an entire network to make sure that one person's getting lifted up when they come in, and not just sitting here facing the world as an individual group. They're facing the world as a collective. And
Mhm.
I think what happens is, since we are driven to that individualistic line of thinking, and that's how we're raised, we assume that that's how everybody operates, and that's dangerous. I think that ends up creating derision where it doesn't need to be, because if most people were hip to the fact that these immigrant groups have internalized lending systems that are community based, they will be trying to actually copy that and say, how
Mhm.
can we build this for people in our group or our family? How can my family build this pool where we lend each other capital to each other so that we can invest in each other's dreams? We should collectively, we should be absolutely doing that. But this individualized American kind of ideology, eventually somebody's going to think about, well, how does this benefit me, and how can I get my maximum benefit and screw everybody else over?
Mhm.
And that's what it ends up devolving to. But yeah, I think that's where that comes from. That super hardline individualistic thing, and I don't necessarily think that's a huge virtue, because
Yeah.
the other side is sometimes people did help you along the way, but
Mhm.
since the narrative that you have to tell about your success story is I did it without help, you end up saying, well, I did it without help, and people watching you are like, well, damn, they did it without help, I should be able to do it without help, when the reality is they had plenty of help to get to that.
Correct.
Like years
Yeah,
ago,
because nobody makes so long. I got you.
what was the entire Kylie Jenner, she's the youngest billionaire or whatever, and she's a self-made. I could be self-made if my family was $300 million just sitting around. I could be self-made with that level. We can't just say, well, she's self-made. We're not taking away her accomplishment, but at the same time, we're saying there was a framework that allowed her to have that level of success that she's enjoying. Without that $300 million, she doesn't get the initial seed investment for a low cost to start this cosmetic company. She doesn't
Mhm.
have media channels in place and the connection and distribution in place to deliver the product on time. And
Got you.
so it's not necessarily self-made, but we have a bias towards saying everybody is self-made, and that's crazy to me.
Right. Well, I mean, again, I think that goes back to thinking that like you don't need anybody else, and kind of like going back to what you were talking about with the people that come from different uh, cultures. That when they come to America, I think it's that lead one, teach one. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not each one teach one.
Teach one, teach one.
It's no. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's what that. I don't think that that's what it is. I think that that's part of a larger collective, because I think it's lead one, teach
Mm-hmm.
one, right? Because again, once you're led, then you can lead somebody else, and then you can help them get on, and then they do the same thing, do the same thing, do the same thing. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that
Right.
at all. But but the other thing too to that is that the same people that are up here that are leading one, teaching one, and so on and so forth, also are sending money back home.
Yes.
I know a lot of Hispanics that or Latin Americans, whatever, that send money back home to take care of mom, take care of dad, brothers, sisters, so they can go get new clothes,
Mm-hmm.
this that, and the other, or whatever. And that's and there a lot of those individuals that are here. What people don't understand is that it's twofold. If you opened up the border, what happens is that people will come here to go to work and they will take their asses back home after the season's done.
Yeah.
They will not stay here. A lot of them don't want to stay here like that. They come here to work. And then after that season's done, they go home. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about drugs being in our communities, that's going to happen whether the borders open up or not.
What's capitalism? Like
You know
one
what
of
I'm
the
saying? Like, yeah, that's going to happen regardless.
one of the
Oh,
biggest
so
one of the biggest fentanyl rings they broke up in the last decade was completely based in California with one of the sheriff's departments.
so
Yeah.
again, it's at every man for himself. So I used to have these shirts that was it was self-made, self-invested,
Yeah.
right? And as you've seen, as long as you've known me, you've never seen me wear it
Right.
because I stopped wearing it. Because I mean, you can be self-invested, but what about the other people that invest in you too?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, like you self-made, but I'm not self-made. Yeah, I am self-invested, but I am one of many that invest in me. You invest in me.
Mm-hmm.
The person I was having a conversation with this morning about his truck, invest in me. Investing is giving your time, money, and energy towards something. That's what the word investment means.
Mm-hmm.
To invest in something. We invest in our children by imparting our knowledge, our values, our education, our uh, 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 money,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So it's all our energy in general. It's all an investment.
Well, I think it does go back to also because it goes back to not living a transactional, 100% transactional kind of
Mhm.
life. You mentioned that I used to interact with a lot of black folks, black British people, and stuff like that. And for those that don't know, imperialism, colonialism, and stuff like that, let me run it down to you. So a lot of times, black folks in Britain are also from the island, like their families are from the islands or whatnot,
Mhm.
or from Nigeria or whatnot. And there's still interaction and tension between those communities just based on different viewpoints or different experiences, post-colonialism and stuff like that, that inform the way that they perceive the world. But I'm saying that to say this: they also do that where it's expected that you send money back home.
Mhm.
And for some of them, there's this real tension because they're in this capitalist society, and they're like, I send the money home, and it just becomes this expectation. And the people that are receiving the money, they don't respect it, or they're not grateful for it because it's just an expectation, and they have a problem with that. So there's other contexts of this that manifest when you're talking about cross cultural exchange or whatnot. But what we're saying is other groups of people are doing it. Just because by and large America hasn't done that doesn't mean that there aren't groups within America that aren't doing that and don't that where that's not their norm. The giving and lending, communal lending and stuff like that, and
Okay.
sending money home, that is not a foreign concept to a lot of people. It just is a foreign concept to us because that's not, your kids go to college. Well, okay, let's run it down like this. How many little dudes made it out the hood, got the big, basketball contract or football contract, and they're making sure that their entire community is taken care of?
Okay.
Their families are taken care of. They paid off their aunt's house and stuff like that. So there are elements of it that do manifest in how we operate. It's just not considered normal. But it is a version of the same. I moved out of the country. I'm living in a different country. I'm doing well now. I'm sending money back home for my parents. So I do think that I think there's layers to it, is what I'm saying. It manifests differently. What were we talking about? Um, 48 laws of power. 15. Now this one, crush your enemies totally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've ever been in that Game of Thrones kind of situation where, you know, I've had the person that I absolutely had to destroy for whatever reason. And so the pro is it eliminates long-term threats. The con is it escalates cycles of revenge. It also creates an environment where everybody is an enemy. And I'm gonna tell you, we've talked about this one, Fearless. Um, that book that you were talking about by the guy who created the entire program that the police use to de-escalate things, where he talks about what happens when you have to kill somebody.
Yeah, you talking about the Lieutenant Dave or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, that piece of
on
shit.
the killing. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
and so what happens when you take a group of people and tell them that everybody external to them is an enemy that needs to be crushed? Is you turn that people into where they view the entire public as enemy combatants. And what happens when you have a occupying force encountering enemy combatants is not cordial. It's not friendly. In fact, it automatically sets the stage for violence. And so this idea that this draconian thing where I must crush my enemies totally. Where do you work where this happens? Who are you interacting with? Where you have to go out there and destroy your enemies. Like maybe if you're playing football, you're on a football team. Like, yeah, you go out there and obliterate your opposition so that you go out and blow them out early so that you can destroy their you can break their back and hope that they don't hope that they can't come back. Same thing in sports. Like maybe in sports.
Okay.
Can you in your life, Fearless, what context what context would you have? I need to. This person is my enemy, and I must utterly destroy them.
Oh, who do I think that I would need to do that to?
Like, can you imagine a context in your life where that would apply, as it exists right now?
Yes.
Where you have an enemy out there that you must destroy.
Yes.
All right. For me, I would internalize this and say, if I'm the enemy. If something in my personality is the enemy, if that's something internally to me is derailing my progress, then yes, I want to obliterate that person, obliterate that 100%. But to careen through life looking for new enemies, I think that's kind of what that sets you up to be, where you're always looking for your next adversary. Yeah, because at some point you just become addicted to the battle and not about the progress. That's just my take on it. But applying this in your interpersonal life, like I said, this is one that I think is kind of individualized to you're being in a highly competitive environment where there is no room for collaboration. That's just my take on it.
No, I get it. I love it.
You know, but yeah, if you're actively searching for enemies, because that's what we're living in, really. I mean, if we're being honest, that's the world we're living in right now. Like that's kind of what the administration is, where there's always a new enemy de jour that we're supposed to be scared of or mad at or something. It's always a us versus them. We're perpetually in an us versus them cycle, and it's not just political. It's now Venezuela is our enemy on some degree, and all these other places are our enemies, and they want the worst for us, and they want to destroy our life or destroy our way of living and everything. That's an exhausting way to exist through life. I don't want to where everybody's my enemy. I don't want to live a life like that.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'm popping up the rest of our stuff.
Okay,
so keep on.
Okay, but I get it if you're in a cutthroat work environment. I was in that cutthroat work environment, and I get it. You want to put them in a position where they can no longer do harm to you. I get it. And I've seen it operate on the highest level at one of the agencies I worked with, where the person in charge did not put somebody that was actively working against them to pasture, out to pasture. And they ended up coming back and basically destroyed everything that they built and booted them out. I've seen it, I've experienced it. So I know that's a real thing. What I'm saying is the application and context of that. Like I said, the example I go, if you are the head cheese grater at Olive Garden, destroying your if you're at that level, you should be building alliances and not trying to destroy people. Like you should be trying to network and build as many alliances as possible with as many people as possible. But if you're walking around like these are my enemy, this other cheese grater over here is my enemy, I must destroy him. You're working against yourself because you're on the bottom rung. At the bottom rung, you need to be collaborating and collectively doing some collective action to ensure that you guys have a platform to be successful. Now, if you're the CEO of Olive Garden and you have to deal with a hostile takeover, or somebody on the board is trying to usurp you and stuff like that, okay, now we can get into the Game of Thrones stuff. But again, my contention with 48 Laws of Power is it makes your entire life this weird Game of Thrones kind of arrangement where you view everything like that. And to me, that's not a life that I would want to live on a day-to-day basis, where I'm have to out strategize everybody from the moment I walk in the door. That would be exhausting.
Right.
And to be honest with you, I'd rather just consolidate my power and get to the point where I don't have to play the power games. It just exists, just ubiquitous. So I like owning my own business. My power is just ubiquitous. I can decide what I want to do and who I want to interact with.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah. Where I don't have to speak it. I don't have to say, this is what my power is. I just say, this is how I want things. And then it's like that. I make it so. I make it happen that way.
Hey, hold on. I just took everything off. Give me a second. Sorry. I know you're like, wait a minute. Hold on. Wait, what?
What is this?
So I told you before, what I wanted to do is I wanted to combine some of these things together because a lot of these laws, y'all, they overlap each other, like a lot. And we were talking about this last week as well. So I figured that we would just kind of combined the rest from 16 to 48. We would just kind of combine a lot of these or whatever. So consolidated power, controlled unpredictability, which is law 17 and 28. A little unpredictability forces others to adapt to you, and then bold moves disrupt equilibrium and creates a psychological advantage.
So yeah, okay, I see I'm getting the framework now.
Yeah.
So now this is we're grouping these together as consolidated laws of power, so that we don't have to go through every single individual.
And because man, we're gonna be here all goddamn day.
Some of those chapters are exactly verbatim reads of one another.
Yeah, they are.
It's just
or the nuance of another one.
Yep.
Or whatever. So yeah. So technically, y'all, the 48 laws, it's probably about 20.
Yep.
It's like, honestly, I'll be honest with you.
So consolidated power principle number 1, scarcity and presence management. And so, okay, power requires being present enough to matter and absent enough to be valued. Overexposure kills mystique. Isolation kills relevance. Contextual.
Very.
Sometimes you
can't do that short of family.
No, you can't do that as a parent.
No,
because if you're sometimey with your kids, you're going to see it manifest out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what happens is there a way to kind of just show what the laws are, like what laws we're consolidating?
Yeah, give me one sec.
Or maybe we could even do the pro and con of it, like we had it.
Okay, I got you. Okay, give me 1 second.
But yeah, controlling, like I understand the idea of controlling, and so that you're not always omnipresent. Because even as a parent, you want to be able your kid to be able to generalize their skills so that they can display their skills out independently of you as a parent. That's fine. The overwhelming, I used to tell people, running residential facilities, the kids that I used to get all the time are actually kids from authoritarian households. It wasn't their parents let them run wild. It was parents that had impeded their kids' ability to think as an independent human being, an autonomous human being, where they were so omnipresent, and the kid couldn't operate or form a coherent thought um, independently. And I used to have to tell them, like, hey man, your kid's always going to find an authority figure, and the thing is that authority figure isn't always going to be another adult. A lot of times that authority figure is going to be another kid. And so if you remove this kid's ability to think in a critical manner, um you are actually limiting them. And so yes, you sometimes your kid will defy you, sometimes they'll go against what you say, sometimes they'll do, they will operate in ways that you would not agree with, but
Mhm.
you need to give them that latitude to go out there and screw things up so that they can start forming their own critical thought process. you know Sometimes they need to experience why your rules are set in a certain way. The kid needs to understand this is why mom and dad have this rule this way, as opposed to it's because I said so. The
Mhm.
rule is exists because it's my house and I pay the mortgage here, and so it just exists because I said so. You have to have something a little bit stronger than that. Um, if you're trying to develop a thinking human being,
That
if you're trying to develop an automaton,
that's
then
time.
yeah, absolutely overrule their ability to think critically and make mistakes. So um, it does cut both ways, but that omnipresent kind of um, where you're always in their face and hovering and leering over them, um, that's not a good thing. So I understand using absence where you want them to make independence, but I've also seen it kind of in that how the 48 laws of power are presented, where you're just completely hands off. You're this enigmatic force who just exists behind the scenes, and then you drop in when you need to and drop out. That's to me that's chaos. That's a way to enforce chaos. I don't know.
No, no, I'm with you.
So 16 and 17, 16 and 18, value increases when access. Okay, so the pro is scarcity amplifies respect, desire, and attention. The con is excess absence becomes irrelevance, excess presence becomes taken for granted.
Now, now the reality and I put on here of like, what is the reality of this working in real life,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it works if you already have value, right? Scarcity doesn't create value; it enhances it. I'm gonna say
Right.
that again. Scarcity does not create value; it enhances it. So if you don't already have these things now, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Like you already have to be like we told you at the top of the hour when we started that the 48 laws of power work for the most part if, and again, there's a big if. It only works if you're already in the vicinity, in the vicinity of
Mm-hmm.
power. You have to
Right.
already be there. If you yourself have absolutely no power and you're not around anybody who has it, the 48 laws of power are going to be mute for you.
Yeah.
And
You.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not. I wouldn't want to be around you personally. So, so what we did was we consolidated two different laws. Law 16, which states use absence to increase respect and honor, and then 18, which is do not build a fortress to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. Why do we say that? That don't build a fortress.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite show in the world, well, I would say one of my favorite shows in the world, was and is The Wire.
Mm-hmm.
Was and is The Wire. In season 3 and 4, and technically 5 as well, there came a gentleman by the name of Marlowe Stanfield.
Yeah.
Marlowe did not, whenever he would hold court outside, just like it wasn't a park, it was like a parking lot, but it was like a backyard type thing. But he
Mm-hmm.
never held out. He never held a meeting inside of an actual dormitory of a place. Why? Because he learned from everybody else. That's how you get caught up. They put
Mhm.
microphones in everything. Well, if I'm out in the open, I can see everything coming.
Right.
And then I can have people watching where we sit and conversate. So you're not gonna today they can get you. At that time, they weren't going to whatsoever. And again, how many times do people hold themselves up in their house, hold themselves up in a fortress, only for that fortress to be set on fire?
What was it? Was that the mask of Red Death? Like that was the entire context of that story, where they all hold themselves up in that castle, thinking that the illness wouldn't get to them. Is Edgar Allan Poe, and um,
Mhm.
that's what actually caused that hastened their collapse, because they were all holed up together. They built a fortress to protect themselves, but they couldn't. But the virus still found them. Now, if they hadn't been in that fortress, it would have infected one or two of them. But since they're all together, it hit everybody at the same time.
Right. I mean, as opposed to if they were just out and about,
Yep.
they were outside or whatever. I'm not saying that they one or two of them wouldn't have gotten sick, but
Mhm.
not all of them would have gotten sick. Even during COVID, one of the things they would tell you to do is do not. They would tell you open your doors and keep your windows open. You need to have that air circulating
Circulating. Yeah.
consistently. You need to have fresh air coming in and out. Fresh air coming in and out.
So, quick question. So, you're a fan of The Wire. Did you watch Trim A?
Uh, yeah,
You did.
yeah.
I liked it, man. I liked Trim A. I liked it. I liked it.
I did too. I loved it, and the reason why I loved it is because um there's a few different reasons. But I got to see our people from the Wire,
Yeah.
right? I got to see Bunk. I got to see Freeman,
Hmm.
and which is so funny because Freeman's daughter in Treme. I don't know if you remember, but she was actually Tasha in The Wire.
Yep. I remember.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I got to see a lot of them. Um, and then I also started thinking about culturalistically that that was the first time that I seen like when they say Big Chief and
Hmm.
this and the other whatever when they dress up in
The Mardi Gras Indians and
the
stuff.
Mardi Gras Indians, and I started thinking I started asking myself who started that tradition. What was that something that was already indicative
It
of you? You see what I'm saying?
it goes back to, so there is some cultural crossplay from Native American groups, but then also we're talking about people from the islands,
That's what
the
I didn't even think
Indian,
about that.
the people
I
from
didn't
the
think about
islands,
that.
because those are Indians too. So people from the islands, Indians is kind of a localized term. We have a specific connotation for it, but then also you have people from the islands and stuff, and it just talks about their background and different tribes uniting and things like that, and so that's really what that was. A different way to view, because if you look at the origins of Carnival and you know, Mardi Gras, there's a lot of
Mhm.
similarities and stuff, and you see similar costumes when you see, Carnival from the islands and things along those lines. For me, watching that show, we're getting back on it, but watching that show, it was almost like, to me, it was almost like a spiritual successor to The Wire, just because it showed a lot of the same thing. It shows systemic failure, what happens when a system fails people in massive, massive ways. Um, and how do they react and how do they respond to it? And then the city ended up becoming a character in and of itself, which,
Just like Baltimore, yeah.
just like Baltimore, New Orleans became a character, but then also the music became a character in and of itself too. And so,
Yeah, there was a part in there. Go ahead, go ahead.
I just, like I said, I enjoyed that show on a bunch of different levels. Um, and plus watching Big Chief was my boy, Big Chief Lynn, bro.
Yeah,
You know, Freeman, for those that are Wire
Yeah.
heads. But I see, it was a kind of a love note to New Orleans and everything, and it actually did catalog some real people. Like Dan Goodman's character was a real person. He's based on a real
Mm,
person. He's based
mm.
on a real professor that ended up committing suicide behind all the fallout of Katrina. If I'm
Oh
not
wow,
mistaken, if I remember
really?
correctly, I could be misremembering, but I remember looking it up, and I think he was actually based on a real person.
Hmm.
And so when you look at it, that show is really kind of interesting, like as a spiritual successor to The Wire. I just felt like that was a slept on like, because the Corner, remember, people forget about the Corner. The Corner was a predecessor to The Wire.
That part. Yeah, because
And
the corner was about Baltimore too.
you know what else was a predecessor to The Wire? Homicide: Life on the Streets on NBC.
Really? Was
That
it?
was set in Baltimore too.
Was it?
Yeah. So a lot of these shows kind of had a little bit of crossplay with one another.
Yeah, because I know a lot of the actors from Homicide were in the Wire, and then so I don't know. Maybe that's the thing I like about David Simon is that
mm,
he interjects, like he runs with the same cast constantly, and then a couple years ago they came out with that whole David Simon did that little mini series.
Generation Kill,
He no.
because that was.
He did that one too, which has Ziggy in it,
Mhm.
who just ended up taking his own life not about a week or so ago. Um, Generation Kill, but no, there was another one. Um, there was another show that he had that was about the Baltimore crash unit.
It's not We Own the Night. Or was it?
No, I think it might be what it is. Is
Or
that
no,
what?
We Own the Night was a movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I got to double check. So
Yeah,
let
but
me look at.
but it's a little mini series, and again, you got to see Poot, you got to see Donut,
Yep.
you got to see your boy, and again, this is all stuff that actually happened
Mhm.
in Baltimore that he brought them back for. You got to see what Dookie looked like today. I mean, like, so it was absolutely. I loved it.
Okay, so
Loved
there,
it.
Generation Kill, Trim A, Show Me Hero, The Deuce, We Own the City is what it was.
We own the city, yeah.
So, but okay,
And that was an amazing show. Oh my god, it was so good.
so let's
Oh
get.
man.
So we're talking, like, we've consolidated, for those that are tuning in, instead of going through the individual laws of power individually, we're consolidating some of them, just like you can consolidate aspects of the 10 Commandments. We can consolidate aspects of the 48 laws of power, because a lot of them are overlapping. And today's show is about the mythology around it. So consolidated law 2 is a combination of 17 and 28. Let me pull those up. Law 17 is keep others in suspended terror, cultivate an air of unpredictability, and 28 is interaction with boldness, hesitation, or half-hearted attempts. Okay, so let's talk about number 17, because I think that 17, again, narrow application for this. I've seen it work, and I'll be honest with you, I've seen the law applied, and I've seen it work. In terms of how it was applied, in terms of the outcomes for the people that were involved in it, not so great. But the concept of keep being unpredictable keeps others off balance, and boldness, keeps others off balance. And if you're trying to keep a population of people under control, the unpredictability can absolutely work.
Okay.
Is it a benefit? So basically, the unpredictability forces others to react to you as opposed to you reacting to them. And they don't know quite what to expect from you, so they can't predict your actions. We
Mhm.
actually have to, when you're running residential environments, you actually have to do that. I used to have to tell my staff, you need to vary up how you do things, because the kids are here all the time. They're watching what you do, and they're learning your patterns. so that when they need to do something that shoots the gap, if they need to get away with something, they know at this time such and such does X, Y, and Z, and this is where we can shoot the gap on them and go out and create havoc. And so you do have to vary up your patterns. You have to be unpredictable in that aspect of it. It wasn't about keeping the kids in terror. It was making sure that staff stayed safe, and didn't fall into habits of doing things, and letting the kids run game on them. And so I get that piece of it. Now, in your interpersonal relationships, that's a disaster. If you're a dad or a mom and your kids don't know what the hell you're capable of, um, that's not always a good thing. Um, One thing about kids specifically is kids require a level of knowing what the routine is. So even though I told my staff to vary their independent routines, we still had a unified schedule that we maintained. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Fearless. We had
Yep.
a we had an independent schedule that we maintained. So dinner time was always at the same time, lunch was always at the same time. We maintained that schedule. But I told the staff to vary their routine on the floor. So if you're not always having one person who sits in the office and does X, Y, and Z. Sometimes if you got homework to do, if you're a student, you got homework to do. Sometimes you do it in the office. Sometimes you do it out on the floor with the kids around you. You just switch it up so that they can't get too consistent with you.
Right.
But this idea of we have to keep the world in terror, I don't know. What is your take on that one? Because we're just talking narrowly about 17 before I open into 28.
Okay, so yeah, keep others in suspense, and then 28 is interaction with
With
boldness.
boldness.
Okay, and which is I totally get that. I mean, it's kind of catch a person off guard, but I think it's one of those things where you start before you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you're checking it from that standpoint, which I think is fine. So the reality is that it works best in conflict or negotiation environments, but not cooperative ones.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if I'm trying to, and again, even with that, like, man, this anthropology class is gonna kick my ass. Like seriously, because it has me looking at how we do things here in the West and how other people do things in other places. Um, in other places, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but like in certain Asian cultures, they don't believe in a one off. They believe in cultivating a whole entire relationship, a working relationship that they plan to have with you
Mm-hmm.
for years to come. They don't
Right.
plan on just having a one time relationship with you, and then they just buy and sell. Then you go about your business. I go about mine. With certain cultures, they want to know your family.
Yeah.
Like they want to go eat with you. They want to take their wife and their kids. They want to come over and they want to hang out. They want to see how you live.
Mm-hmm.
They really want to actually bond with you. So it's not just a working relationship. It's a cohesive of my culture and your culture, my family and your family.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you're into, I need to be into that. The same exact thing too. But I also think that what that does is it disarms other people that you have around you too, or whatever. So there is no bold action. There is no unpredictability because I don't want unpredictability,
Right.
especially when we're working together, cohesively working together. But I also see that because of the culture that we live in the U.S., man, we crash out dummies. We don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to get that bag. And again, I mean, think about that. Think about when we say that I'm trying to get to the bag.
Yeah.
It's like I'm trying to get to the bag. It's not that, hey man, let's work on something together so that we can collectively build together. Why don't we collectively get some bags
Yeah.
and pull our money together and build some stuff? You never hear people really saying that. Think about the people that you see, these professional sports teams. Why is it that with all that money In those locker rooms, nobody's talking about building a bank.
Yeah.
Nobody. Nobody's collectively. It costs $10 million to invest in a bank. 10 million. That's what you have to have for upfront seed money. $10 million. You got over $200-300 million in this room, and ain't none of us talking about building a bank.
Hmm.
I mean,
Well,
the Japanese. Give me 1 second. The Japanese, they don't believe in, like, when they. I don't. I think it's the Chinese. No, maybe it's the Japanese. Either way, when they need money, they don't go to the bank and ask the bank for money. That's not what they do. You know what they do? They buy the bank. So therefore, what do I need money for? I already got money,
mhm.
right? So their whole objective: if I need a place to live, why do I need to rent this apartment? How about I think to, what do I need to do to own the apartment building? You see what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
the way that they look at things is totally different, um, as well, and it's going to give you a totally different outlook and a different action plan on based on the questions that you're asking yourself.
So I guess, and there's different ways to kind of frame that. I guess for me, when we talk about like the athletes collectively, why they don't pool their money together. Here's the thing: you have to be. If I'm going to, if we're talking about a $10 million investment, right? I have to have a level of trust that the person sitting next to me, if we're going into this venture together, the person that I'm going in this venture with, going into war with, essentially, um, can deal with. It goes back to what I used to when I first started doing investing and stuff. Not everybody's built for that.
Mhm.
Not everybody's built to invest. Can you put your money into a stock and then watch the stock market crash the next day? Most people aren't.
Right.
They'll put their money in the stock market and stock market crashes the next day. And next thing they started to, oh my God, I got to get my money out. For me, I've experienced it enough. Oh shoot, stock market crash, huge discount on everything. Let me go see what I can go buy. Let me
Right.
buy more shares of the thing that just tanked. And so a lot of times I think that's the thing that there's a natural human aversion to getting into those kind of partnerships with other people.
But again, though, I'm not even talking about doing a partnership
But this goes to the
with
point. Let's go.
others. Okay, go ahead.
This goes to your point because we don't have that level of connection or familiarity with the systems or environment that raised this person.
Right,
So
but
they're
yeah,
unpredictable too. That's what I'm saying. No, is reinforcing your point because we don't know enough about them or how they were raised or what values they were raised under. If they grew up broke, if they grew
yeah.
up with money, a lot of things are going to determine the way a partnership comes out with. And so we don't know how internally they're programmed because we don't necessarily have insider access to the environment and the people they came up with.
Hmm.
And so if you know the environment and people that this person came up with and you have an idea of the frameworks they were raised with, it's easier to get into big money partnerships with people like that. More times
Hmm.
than not, in these professional locker rooms, you're talking about people that are free agents. They may only be there a year. They may only be there 2 years at best. And so you don't get to know people on that level. You know what I'm saying? Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah,
But
yeah. No, I totally understand what you're saying. Well, my point was in general is that even if you didn't partner up with other people to do that, you rarely hear about that actually occurring in general,
yeah,
right? And and again, I could be wrong, but I don't really think that I am when it comes to this. I think that there's certain things, like, and I heard a basketball player talk about this before. He said, with all this money in here, why are we not talking about building our own schools? Why are we not talking about building our own infrastructures and this and together? And he said, because we're told not to.
mhm.
I mean, think about that. Because we're told not to.
And my question to them would be, You're a millionaire. Why do you have to listen to what people tell you what to do? Because I built okay. Because I've already done the school thing. I've already one of my shelters actually had a school that I was in. I was designing and building and doing the iron and setting up within the framework of our uh in the framework of my shelter. And so I was hands on building the school program. And so
Hmm.
if somebody came to me and said, "Well, you can't do that," I'm like, "Stop me." Um, I think the question is, what are you qualified to do? Because I could have $1 billion, right?
Hmm.
Me having $1 billion doesn't qualify me to know what it takes to open a bank. Now,
Right.
I could have $1 billion and say, I have done marketing, I've done retail, um, and I know about franchises. So maybe I can get into the franchise game. That's the route a lot of NBA players take
Hmm.
to make their money stretch. NFL players kind of do it too. All these car lots, a lot of these car lots are former players who started
Right.
car lots and stuff. And so sometimes it is, what are you qualified to do?
But
But
see, but again, though, that's that narrow thinking.
mm,
Who is it? Warren Buffett himself even said, even with Charlie Munger, said the same stuff. They don't know about most of the stuff that they're going off and buying. When they buy a business, they
mhm.
don't know. What do? They buy it and they have whoever is running it run it.
But that's what I'm saying, Fearless. Not everybody has that mentality. I, as a business owner, I have no problem. If I have something that needs to be done, I have no ego about hiring somebody who's better
Mm,
than me to
yeah,
do
to
the
do
thing.
that, yeah, for sure.
But
That's what you do.
most people, I'm just saying, most people, their ego gets caught up in the thing
Hmm.
and they refuse to bring on a person that is better at them, because what happens is, and it goes back to what we were talking about with friends and associates and how we interact with one another, their ego is challenged by actively going out and finding somebody that's better at them. Because what happens is, I'm hiring X person who's better than me at said thing. They're going to usurp my power. That comes from when you are 248 laws of power brained,
Yeah, yeah, okay, I got you.
where you see every person as your potential um competitor.
Competitor, yeah.
A lot of people they don't want to own their own business. They don't want they just want a steady paycheck.
That part, and I've met people like that, and I've also met people that that swear up and down like, man, I want to be successful, but they are not. And then when they get right up to the precipice of it
Hmm.
and back away,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? Crickets. So now I've seen that as well. It's funny how we swear up and down that we want certain things until you get it,
Hmm.
or until you have the opportunity to do it. And then not only do you walk away from that idea, you fucking destroy it and you run from it.
Hmm.
And again, I'm not saying that opportunities can't knock multiple times, because of course they can.
Yep.
All I'm saying is that you may not necessarily be alive for the next one to roll around for you.
Well,
While the iron's hot, strike, man, hit hard, quick, fast.
right.
Or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like I man, I don't have it with me. Do it. So I read this. We talk about our books or whatever that we read. So I
Hmm.
read this book right here over the weekend. I literally just sat down and just knocked it out.
Yeah.
And I read it because this other psychologist, sociology professor, um, was talking about it. And one of the things that that she talked about in the book, or excuse me, that he talked about in the book, was he said, the problem is that so many of you guys keep worrying about grades,
Hmm.
grades. He said the other thing is that you have everybody and their mother trying to rush you through to get through with your prerequisites. Oh
Yeah.
man, just go knock out your prerequisites. Knock this out. Just go knock that out. He said the reason why so many of you don't either like college, you sucked at it, or your objective was just to get good grades. Hold on one second. Oh wow. Oh, Um, is that he said, and I quote, he said that God damn it, I lost my damn trying to thought. What was this on my? Oh,
Grades.
yeah, grades, whatever. Is that you focusing on grades as opposed to focusing on learning the information.
Right.
You said if you focus on learning more than you focus on the grades, I guarantee you're gonna get more out of college than anybody, even with all 4 years.
Well,
Just
and
buckle down if you love to learn. Like me, I love learning.
mhm.
I love to learn. I read one fucking chapter and it's already blowing my mind with all kinds of different stuff. Right? I one chapter in anthropology. One chapter. I got like 15 more weeks to go. I can only imagine where my mind's gonna be in 15 weeks with this particular course. Right?
Well,
You see what I'm saying? Like, come
yeah.
on, man, stop playing.
Well, and I want to jump back on a couple of things, right? Like
Yeah,
you
for
mentioned
sure.
it. Sometimes the worst thing that could ever possibly happen to you is the thing that you want the most.
Yeah.
You the worst thing that could possibly happen to you is you getting your way.
Yeah.
And some people aren't aware of it until they've run into that razor that buzz saw. They want it, and then they end up getting it. And now, wait a minute, this sucks.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get into that mindset where they don't understand. Okay, so now you've demanded this from the universe, and the universe delivered the thing to your doorstep. Now
Right.
you don't want it no more.
Yeah.
Um, I become to the point where I'm almost like, and Fearless can tell you, I am almost like this serial executor, and I will try just about anything. Um,
Mm.
to the point where I try so many different things, I end up distracting myself from the things that I have high level of competence in because I get curious about stuff. A lot of people never develop that execution muscle. To be honest with you, that's where this podcast came from, the trial and error thing. I am big about going out there and screwing the thing up and getting the lesson from the
Yeah.
screw.
Yeah. Mess it up as much as we possibly can.
And I think what happens is a lot of people get caught up in the the learning aspect of it, the acquisition of the knowledge side of it, that they never want to execute on the knowledge side of it. And that can be dangerous too, where you just become, especially when you have a part of it where you do actually need to go out there and try and try and try and try. Some people never get to the try part. And that's a dangerous position to be in, where you have all these things that you know, but you never are too scared to try because you're trying to optimize for experiences you've never had.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to make sure that this thing that you're implementing goes without a hitch, but you've never done the thing that you're trying to execute.
Never.
You're trying to plan around, you're basically trying to skip over being a novice and jump right to expert. You think that you're going to outread that, and a lot of times people don't. And I think maybe that's what college is about, going in and maybe failing a class here or there because you weren't equipped to do it. And I think what happens is people get too discouraged by that.
I mean, yeah, especially if you're paying all that money
Hmm.
for it. Yeah, of course you're gonna be, feel a particular way.
Okay,
All right.
so
Yeah, let's run to the next. Number
okay,
3. Here we go. Consolidate number 3. Study people, not just situations. As you can see, I'm running it through.
yeah.
Yeah. So as we go through it, I'll just run it through there so that people can actually kind of see what we're talking about.
So 19 and 33. I'll read the law if you can start breaking it down. So law 19 is know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. I never have a disagreement with this one. Don't have a disagreement with this one at all. But
Study people, not just
yeah.
okay. So mapping personalities, motivate vulnerabilities, and triggers is leverage. So the pro for this is that prevents avoidability.
Mhm.
Excuse me, prevents avoidable conflict and empowers precision influence. Now the con is that people reading takes time and attention, and misreads can be fatal. This is what we were talking about with the whole Tupac thing
Yeah.
or whatever. So the 19 is, like my guy just said, know who you're dealing with. do not offend the wrong person. That's law 19. Law
33.
33 is discover each man's thumb screw. So here's the thing. Tupac is not here today
Mhm.
because he offended the wrong person.
Yeah.
You put your hands on somebody or whatever. And again, Glasses Malone, another rapper out of Watts, California,
Mhm.
he wrote this song called Tupac Must Die. You gotta watch it and listen to the song, right? But it's called Tupac Must Die.
Mhm.
And he living in Watts, he knew everybody that was basically in that car that night, the night that Tupac was shot. And the song goes in and he talks about the whole entire thing. But I heard him giving an interview on it. And the thing with the interview was, or the thing that G Malone said that really captured to me the experience of what he's talking about was he said it wasn't just a gang banging thing.
Mm-mm.
He said if it was just that he'd have caught them dudes in Compton because that's just how things are. It was the fact that he sees Tupac walking towards him and he's thinking, oh man, there's Pop. And then Suge is right behind him, but Tupac's walking directly towards him, walks over and punches him in his face. Now, again, look at this. Study people, not just situations. Motherfucker, he didn't. First and foremost, if he was calling himself Machiavelli, how do you call yourself Machiavelli, but you don't study the rules? You talk about that shit in your records all the time,
Mhm.
but you don't live by the shit you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? And that's the reason why Tupac died violently that night. Or whatever. It's because of that law right there. You put your hands on the right person at the wrong time, and that was that.
Well, and then also it goes into, we talked about it too, where you end up becoming the role that you're playing. You know what I'm
That
saying?
part.
We must be careful who we pretend to be. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
that's, be
And that's
careful who you pretend to be, because that, and that's kind of what it
right.
is.
And G Malone was saying that that's kind of what happened with. That's the reason why that homeboy allegedly gunned him down that night was because if first and foremost that story getting back to Compton
Hmm.
that you let this rapper fire on you in front
Hmm.
of everybody and you dropped it, you didn't fight back, you didn't do nothing. He said everybody in the town was gonna clown him for that.
Right.
Everybody was gonna clown him for that. So again, so think about it. Did Tupac lose his life that night because he punched the wrong person? You know what I'm saying? Because again, if he was into that life, then that'd have been one thing. But he wasn't into that life. And that's why he lost his life. Because, bro, you an outsider messing with some stuff that ain't got nothing to do with you.
Uh,
And and again, so basically reputation.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the reputation of this dude. You know what I'm saying? In Compton, where he lives, everybody there is going to clown him because you got punched in your face by Pac. Could you imagine talking to a chick at a club and she like, nah, I'm good. You let that rapper fire on you. And not just a rapper, but this dude hangs out with Pyrus all day long.
Well, and like I said, it goes
And then he
back.
got mob put all on him. Bro, and that's your enemy said, boy, you gonna get out here and get clown for that shit.
Well, and I guess to me that it ends up becoming, because I had a kid in one of my programs. Um, Reason why he ended up getting put in my shelter was a little white dude from South Omaha. And he grew up around the gangs. He
Mhm.
knew enough to be dangerous to himself, and so he started. And this is real. He started claiming MS-13, and he was in a different facility, and his worker came in and kind of told me the story. He's in this other facility. He's talking about MS-13, and the MS-13 kids were stepping up to him saying, "Hey, you ain't
You gotta
don't
stop that
do
shit.
don't do this. It's not safe for you." And he wouldn't listen to him because he was so enamored of this life that he wanted to live.
Yeah.
And one of the kids finally stepped to him and said, "Okay, this is where your mom works. This is where your dad works. This is where your little sister goes to daycare. You need to stop."
Oh, dude.
And so they ended up putting him in my shelter, and we had to limit his phone calls and everything. But the first thing I told him, I said, "Okay, so you doing this MS-13 stuff? We got Norteños in the house, bro. Like, you talking Sereno stuff? We got Norteños in the house. Do not flag in my house." Well, and for those that don't know, don't show your affiliations are. I have nothing but gang members in this house. None of them flag in here. It's neutral territory. Nobody was repping any sets or anything like that. If nobody knows who each other is, then we don't have fights. And he came in there and he started doing this fake set stuff and all this other stuff. Eventually, they had to move him out because he wouldn't keep himself safe, because he was so enamored with this idea of being part of the Salvadorian gang that they're actually threatening his life. And he's not smart enough to see this is going to end up very badly for me because it's not real to him. The violence isn't real to him. And so he was trying to play this role, even though the people that were involved in that said, "Hey, man, don't do that."
Right.
But when you got actual gang members stepping to you, say, "You got to chill because it's not just us out here." And they're going to start questioning who we're letting in. It makes us look bad to everybody else. But me telling this little dude, "Hey, don't claim like you're from South, you're a little white dude from South Omaha. Don't claim this El Salvadorian gang, bro. Like, you're putting yourself in danger. They already told you your parents' address and your little sister's school. What else do you need to know?" But he was hell bent on being this person. I don't know if he's still around anymore, but I knew for a second I had to sit down and tell, like, "Hey, this little dude ain't even trying to keep himself safe. Y'all got to move him somewhere else. You probably got to get him out of state because he can't shut his mouth." And my shelter's off the grid because we have gang members in there. They don't know the address. They don't know where he is, but he's out here running his mouth, man. Listen, these kids do talk to one another. And you're going to get in some issues that you really can't. So was it, we are who we pretend to be, so be careful who you pretend to be. That was kind of what happened with the entire Pac thing. Now, I don't have a problem with don't offend the wrong person. I honestly, I roll with that. The one I do have a problem with is know each man's thumbscrew, and there's a reason why. Yes, you need to know, like, if you're in that level of competitiveness in your environment, you need to know where other people's gaps and flaws and weaknesses are and stuff like that. The danger is when you start playing around with people's primal instincts, their worst instincts, the thing that they don't have a logic base for. You are playing a very, very dangerous game with people, because you never know. Once you start getting into the primal aspects of it, you're opening the door for literally anything. I had a staff who was a licensed therapist, and I had to tell her, "Hey, I get you have all the credentials behind you. You're not in this home in that capacity. You have to be very, very careful the way that you approach things, because you're in this weird thing where you are a service provider, but you're also connecting services to them. When you start playing around with people's primal, like their fears, the things that drive them on an emotional level, where you end up having logic not connected to it, you play with their fears, you play with their anger, you play with their interpersonal relationships, anything can happen."
Gotcha.
Because people will get in the heat of the moment. Anything, you will open the door for anything to happen. This will escalate in a way that you've never seen before. And so I used to warn my staff about it, but I had to tell her specifically, you actually know how the human brain works. You're licensed to do this outside of here. You need to leave that at the door and not bring that into the environments that you're working in, because you're not serving in a therapy capacity. You're serving in a family support capacity. Let the
Oh
therapist be the
wow.
therapist. Let the therapist be the therapist. You be the family support worker, because you're opening a door that you may not be able to close. I
Hmm.
used to tell people when I brought kids in my shelter, I said, here's the thing. A lot of times, especially if we have a kid that comes in and struggling, one of the things that happens is they'll get in here and they realize that a lot of things that they thought were true in their life are not true. A lot of worldviews that they held coming into this, they realize that those worldviews no longer serve them. When you get to that point, you never know what somebody's going to do when you tell them their basic understanding of the world is wrong. When they realize it internally, you're not ready for that kind of crash out. And so
Hmm.
that's why a lot of times when we bring kids into the shelter and show them, we can be different and you can be better, you can achieve things that you never thought you could achieve before, there's always a massive blowout. The kid always had a big, huge, for the lack of a better word, a huge temper tantrum,
Hmm.
because basically we're taking this kid and showing them that the world they lived in and the rules that they had to live in that world are either not 100% true all the time or no longer serve them as the person they currently are right now. And
Hmm.
when you upset somebody's entire sense in their entire worldview at one time, you're going to see a massive explosion of emotion come out.
Yeah, and, I remember reading a book on that. It was by Blake Crouch. Matter of fact, it was called Dark. I think it's called Dark Corners. It's on HBO. It's on one of those
Let me look it up while you're talking.
shows now. I think it's called Dark. I think it's called Dark Corners, and it's basically about this dude who has to have this who goes in and out of different
Dark matter.
reality.
That's what
Dark
I thought it was.
matter.
I thought it
Dark
was dark
matter.
matter. It's dark matter.
Yeah, I read that book like years ago, and it was amazing. But that's literally one of the things that happened was every time he goes through one door, it changes everything up in this other world, and people would go crazy. And he went to this police station, and he was in there, and this cop took his gun out and popped himself
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, literally because like your mind cannot. It's only used to one particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you overstimulate it to a point, it's going to do some. It's going to do whatever it needs to do to equal things out.
Yeah. That's what happens when you get into that religious fanaticism, um, where you have somebody who grew up in a cult. Like if they grew up in a cult and they come out of that cult and realize the world isn't what their worldview doesn't align with what they were told from the time they were born. Typically, you need a therapist, a team of therapists to unpack that, because finding out that your worldview is fundamentally unsound or fundamentally wrong um, will absolutely destroy you in a weird way. And I think people don't quite understand the danger that you're opening up. That's why a lot of times when you see these debates on social media, when you start whittling down and start hammering down to the actual truth of the matter, that's when people get aggressive. That's when people get mad, because you're attacking their fundamental belief of a thing, and it doesn't change their mind. It makes them double down on the thing that the falsehood
The
that they've been
belief that they
living in.
have, and even when they know,
Yeah.
even when they know that their claim seems stupid,
Hmm.
that there's no basis for it, that there's no evidence to claim any of this shit,
Hmm.
that it is a myth. They will still double down that it is fact because you're calling them out on it.
Yep.
Now, and that's the reason why um, I love watching. I love watching kind of like cringe TV when you watch people, um, like when you watch interviewers interview people like out in the street,
Hmm.
and they'll talk about like MAGA or something like that, and they'll ask them a question, or they'll ask somebody a religious question, and they'll say, "Well, how do you feel about the Bible being in schools?" Well, yeah, it should be in school, really. And so are you okay with me? Would you be okay with a teacher talking about rape and incest? Well, no. Okay. Are you okay with me talking about murdering people? No. So why are you okay with it being in school? Well, that's not the same. Well, actually, it is. Well, no, that's not what the Bible says. Well, let me go to this particular passage. And then you see so many people either double down on their bullshit
Mm-hmm.
or they'll just turn around, tuck tail, and walk off.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them haven't really read this stuff or whatever. So, like, there was this guy that I follow, Josh Duff, I think is his name, black dude.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think he's like some type of statistic or whatever. But anyway, he was talking about that. He was talking about the statistics and facts and all that stuff. And he said, yeah, it's really funny how if you say something to me, my whole objective. Let me rephrase that. He was talking about when people talk about the Bible, and he said that, and I think it was after the death of Charlie Kirk, and he was talking about how people said that it's not in the Bible for us to be mean to each other and
Mm-hmm.
this and the other. And he said, no, that's exactly what the Bible talks about.
Mm-hmm.
And not just the Old Testament, but the new one as well. Or whatever. Old Testament basically will burn your ass right then and there. Second Testament basically tells you that we're gonna knock your ass off as soon as you're out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is your life hard while you're there, but as soon as you die, you got fire and brimstone to look forward to too. It's like, well, you can pray. All you have to do is give my son an alley oop, and I'll forgive all the horrible shit you've done. Right before you're out. So then it justifies murder, it justifies bullshit. And I sit around thinking all the time, like some of these people cannot. I don't believe that they believe in God the way that they said they do. Because if you did, if you honestly believe in judgment after you're dead and all that shit, which is actually an Egyptian thing, but it's not whatever. Um, I'm like, I don't think that these people believe in God whatsoever. So either A, they don't believe in it, or B, they know something that we do not.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because, bro, you can't act like this and be thinking that you're going to be okay when everything is said and done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I think about the shit that I do. I'm
I,
like, man, I know I'm going to pay for some of this shit.
I think people don't like to think about it on that intimate of a level.
I
More
do.
times than not.
Yeah.
I think people are comfortable in their level of whatever their belief is, and they don't want to have to really think about it, because if they really had to think about it, it would counter a lot of the things that they currently hold dear in the real world. And so that's why I keep going back to it. People will vehemently defend their worldview, even if their worldview is proven wrong. All it does is make them
Right.
double down
Yeah.
on the same negative worldview that they have. Right now, there's a guy on Facebook. I pointed out that, and it's known, it's something that's been known for a long time, where a lot of law enforcement has white nationalist tattoos on them.
Mhm.
And some of them are part of these white nationalist gangs, right?
Oh, sweet. Awesome.
And so, and I said, and I'm making the correlation because they mentioned this as a potential problem where years and years ago, about this was in a different administration, they're talking about how a lot of militia groups, separate white nationalist militia groups, are actually getting into border patrol and border enforcement.
I'm sure so they can take out their aggression on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And immigration enforcement. This is not new. This is something that's been there. But now they have the hiring surge. And so now more people. So now their internal documents of ICE say, hey, overlook gang tattoos, overlook white nationalist tattoos. And so I've seen it on the news where I'm sitting there watching it, and this ICE agent comes across the screen. I see his sleeve. It's Iron Cross. There's a blood eagle on there. Those are Nazi tattoos. And I've seen it with my own eyes, personally. I didn't pause the TV, take a picture of it. I've seen it. And so this guy is sitting there, well, show me the bad men with the Nazi tattoos. So I showed him a picture of one. I don't sit there and log in and record it every single time. And so his this is literally verbatim what he just replied to. I happened to glance down at my phone, it lit up. Basically said, so I mean, as long as he's a white nationalist and he doesn't bring it to work, what difference does it make? And imagine telling a black person, well, if the cop is a neo-Nazi, it doesn't matter as long as he. Are you out of your mind?
As soon as he puts that badge on, all that stuff goes out the window.
Yeah. Are you insane?
Yeah.
Are you insane? It doesn't matter if that daycare worker is a child molester, as long as they don't bring it to work with them. What difference does it make? Are you insane? Have you lost your mind?
Oh wow, I like that.
From the fact that I distorted his frame of reference that law enforcement can't possibly be tied into there because there must be some filter mechanism. They remove the filtering mechanism. And so now you're getting these people that are barely literate, that have affiliations with groups that they consider hate groups and stuff like that. Those are the people that are holding guns or in charge of people's lives. And instead of admitting, wait, this might be problematic to us by and large, not just people that look like me and you, but collectively, because fascism is a funnel. And so once you get past our layer of dark skin difference, then we start getting into religious difference, national country of origin difference. Where did your ancestors come from difference? You start funneling down, and so the people start looking more similar as you funnel through to the point where, wait, you're not a Protestant? Put them on the floor. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But in order to understand what I'm saying, you need to be able to shift your worldview a little bit. So it's just an interesting thing. When you start hacking and getting close to somebody's deeply held beliefs, they don't change their beliefs, it reinforces them. So you start hacking away. Like as you start digging deeper, the dirt gets tightly packed to the point where it's solid, almost like concrete. And so you get through that concrete level to get to where you're trying to be. So I think that's what happens. And so that's the danger of the thumb screw theory, where you start twisting and screwing with somebody's perception of life.
Yep.
You're distorting their perception of reality. You're opening Pandora's box for anything to happen to you, any negative thing to happen to you, because it's not tied to any level of rationality. Attacking something that they deeply hold belief, and they will defend it, whether they got to go through you to do it. You end up becoming immaterial. That's why I feel like,
no, I get it. So I'm looking at the reality is that most failures in life come from misunderstanding people, not from misunderstanding strategy or the situation, but people in general, which is really crazy. I mean, I think that's kind of what we're discussing on that anyway. So okay, let's move to the next one right quick. God damn it. Oh please.
Okay.
What was that? Did we already do that one?
Which one?
Yep. Okay. I got it. All right, that's what happened. I didn't. Okay, perfect. Okay, there we go. All right, so go into there and I'll put it up.
Which one is it? Where are we at?
24. Go all the way up.
Okay. Dang, I felt like I scrolled down. So number 24. What consolidated law? Tell me which one.
God damn it. Hold on one sec.
Consolidated law number 3, or are we on 4?
4.
Okay. Consolidated law, strategic non-commitment, tactical retreat. Okay. So I'll pull it up. Number 20. So these are laws 20 and 22. Sorry, guys. We're still sorting some of this stuff out.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
20 and 22. Do not commit to anyone is law 20. Commitments limit your flexibility and bind you to a certain path. Okay. And law 22 is law power use, surrender tactic, transform weakness into power. Surrender is often seen as a sign of weakness, but it can be a sign of strength when used strategically. By surrendering, you can buy time, preserve your resources, and even turn the table when the time is right. Okay. The do not commit to anybody. Don't try to do this in your interpersonal life. Please don't. Please don't. If you're like for your job and stuff like that, you can have those kind of transitory commitments where you're like, I'm with this job as long as I'm happy and they're paying the bills and nothing better comes along. That's probably the optimal way to be in this society where they can lay you off at any time. But don't do that with your fiance.
Yeah.
Don't do that with your kids.
Yeah, right. Don't do that with your wife or nothing. Yeah.
Tactical retreat, I don't necessarily have a huge problem with it. When things are wrong, you can withdraw and come back and hit and maybe have a better advantage if you regroup. Like I don't have an issue with that.
Right.
One of the games I play is Overwatch, and it's a team tactical shooter.
Yeah. Okay.
And a lot your success is determined by how the team reacts to different situations. Sometimes going 1v5 where you're just going to charge in and try to take down 5 people is a bad idea. Sometimes if your team dies, you need to run back to spawn and wait for your team to come out so that you can have a better opportunity to be successful. So you tactically retreat. So I don't necessarily have an issue with that side of it. It's not, like I said, the whole book is not mythology. Some of these make sense, but sometimes a tactical retreat is not throwing good money after bad.
Right. No. Sometimes you got to move.
But the non-commitment one, I think you have to be judicious in how you approach that one. If you're in the seat of power, it makes sense because when you're in the seat of power, whatever you commit to ends up borrowing your power and authority. And sometimes you don't want that to happen.
Right.
And so you only want to commit to things that you have a high level of engagement with.
No, it works for me. So I mean, so what does that say? Like, so the preserves options, avoids unnecessary losses. I mean, again, I can understand that, but the con is that can look weak or disloyal if overused. Right. I mean, and again, I get that too, though, dude. I mean, I don't know. Again, like I said, I mean, when you're looking at this from a personal standpoint, like I'm good or whatever like that. But I mean, for business type stuff, I mean, again, but even this is like more like war type shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't really see how you would be able to use this in any type of relationship. Retreat is a tactic. Ego confuses retreat with defeat. I mean, unless you're with a person or in the vicinity of a person who has just a horrible, nihilistic, misogynistic, toxicity, you know what I'm saying, like type of character, I mean, you really don't need to be around people like this in general.
Edit your circle. Sometimes,
Fuck yes. Like, don't walk away from this type of person. Run.
The diameter of your knowledge, the circumference of your activities. Sometimes you really need to approach the people that you edit your friends list and make sure that you don't have these kind of people that force you to be this kind of person in your life in the first place.
The one thing I'll tell you is real quick is that I think that if you have to be around people like I'll look at it like this, right? So there's during the year you got it's split up into 4 months, 3 months a year, right? So each season gives you a new time to spring clean or to summer clean or to winter, prepare for the winter. Man, get rid of fucking people in your life. Here's the thing. I don't want to say because here's the thing. I think that I can be toxic at times too, like dead ass. Like my personality in general is just like god damn. Sometimes, like even I'm like, damn, bro. Like, what is wrong with you? I say this to myself constantly. Like, damn, bro. Like, the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you like this? Which people ask me all the time, like, what's wrong with you? And it's not that I'm trying to be an asshole about certain stuff. It's just I just see things the way that I see them, and Most of the time, I'll call it out the way that I see it. But again, it's the way I see it. I'm not saying it's the truth.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's my objective truth to what I'm looking at.
Well, having boundaries ain't having boundaries, because I view that as having hard boundaries. Having hard boundaries about things that are in your life or in your world, there's nothing toxic about that. And I think we fall into the rabbit hole of this is toxic and that's toxic. If I draw a hard line in the sand and say don't cross it, and then you cross that line in the sand,
Right.
I'll fuck with you no more. And
Right.
so there's nothing that doesn't make me toxic. That makes me vehement about defending my personal space and depending what I am comfortable with. And so I think
Right.
I think toxicity comes over where you try to make your boundaries somebody else's boundaries.
That part. Okay.
And,
And that makes sense.
so I get it, Fearless. Like I'm very like I joke, but you know, my ADHD sometimes, my way my brain is, I could be a sociopath. Like I in terms of human interaction. Like if I decide that I don't mess with you anymore, you cease to exist in my brain. And I'll never look up, you know, I won't ever think about you again. And my wife even said sometimes it can kind of be scary when somebody really, because I got a big heart and I help people out. I don't go in with expectation of receiving anything when I help people. You've seen this to the detriment. It can be a detriment to me where I go in and try to help without expectation of anything. And so when you operate like that, I give people a lot of latitude. When you've stepped over and transgressed in a way where I'm like, oh, I'm not fucking with you no more, you cease to be a human being from my standpoint. And only a few people in my world have actually experienced that. And only maybe one or two of them has ever gotten back in to where I'm like, all right, I'll give you another shot. So I don't think having hard boundaries is a bad thing. I think what happens is in this pop culture society, we are utilizing a lot of therapeutic language in normal parlance. And I don't think that's necessarily a great thing. I think just because we don't get along with somebody, they're a narcissist.
Right.
Just because somebody says a hard no and that hard no made you feel uncomfortable, they're toxic. Nah. Toxic is a presence. Toxic means that they contaminate all aspects of your life and poison things that you otherwise have that are otherwise good. Toxic doesn't mean fuck no, man. Come on, man. That's not toxic. That's just fearless having a strong boundary against this stuff. And so you know, that's kind of how I view it, man. So for me, I think the non-committal thing, like I said, I think it does benefit you sometimes, but it's very specific times. We invest in the things we care about, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't invest in a thing, sometimes that thing will never come to fruition. If you never fully commit to a thing, like if you never fully commit to a relationship and take the risk of being hurt in the relationship, you're never going to reap the benefits of a good relationship.
Correct.
And a lot of people are operating in this transitional mind frame that social media has kind of programmed us with this "what have you done for me lately" kind of thing, where you're not looking at the long-term slope of a relationship. You're looking at what have they done for me lately, and then you're comparing it against what they used to do, as opposed to maybe something in their life has changed. And so maybe I'm at this point in the relationship, but if I stick around, we're going to be up here and we're going to stay up here for a long, long time. And so I don't know. I think the non-committal thing isn't necessarily a good or bad thing. I just think it's you being judicious in the way you apply it. Now, the strategic retreat, is that the other one? Yeah, strategic retreat. Surrender tactic, transform weakness into power. I don't see a lot of counters to that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do. Sometimes you need to withdraw and marshal your forces and not consider a retreat. Just consider a pause in forward momentum.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just like my book of the month subscription or whatever, they'll let you pause it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to be done with it. Just you don't gotta get rid of it. Just pause this for a little bit.
Yeah. relax.
Yeah, go ahead and relax. I think like that. Again, with me doing school, I'm not gonna be able to read as much, so I'll keep it.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of me buying 5 books a month, I'll probably just grab one.
Right. If beating your head up against the wall hurts, stop and figure out a way that you don't have to beat your head up against the wall.
Yeah, for sure.
So, do you want to go on to the next one, or do we want to put a pause on it and save it for
Now,
next week?
let's put a pause on this one
Okay.
because again, we got the rest. We can just knock the rest of them out, and then we can do like an overall thing on there, and then so like this. So next week we'll do the the rest of these, and then we'll jump into Robert Kiyosaki's
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Poor Jab 4-part quadrant, all that stuff, whatever the pros and cons of it, the
Yeah.
realistics of it, how it would actually work.
And
That's yeah.
before you guys get mad at us, I want to set the tone for when we go into Rich Dad Poor Dad. Understand, Rich Dad doesn't exist. Rich Dad is a hypothetical person that this man came up with to juxtapose his beliefs against. I need you to understand that before we get into it, so that you don't get too mad when we start talking about what aspects make sense, what aspects don't. People earnestly believe that Rich Dad exists. He doesn't exist. He's a composition of different people, an amalgam of different people. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is a lot of mythology that comes along with that side of it. So that's what we got, guys. I do appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. You're going to start seeing the clips now. I've been editing like a madman in my off hour, so you're going to start seeing episodes that aren't full live streams pop up on the platforms. And now we're about to start really getting into this thing. The audience is going to blow up, y'all. So stay tuned for what we got coming up in the future. I like these conversations, Fearless. I like us taking the mythology of 48 Laws of Power and Rich Dad Poor Dad. Let's find more.
Dude, come on, man. This is me. I Think and Grow Rich. That's another one too. That we coming for your goddamn head too, sir.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So of course. But at the same time, though, I mean, again, it's those nuances of it. But again, I think that we can still learn, for good, bad, and indifferent. We can still learn from it.
Right. So I appreciate y'all's time. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Brian.
I'm Fearless.
Talk to y'all later. Peace.